Welcome to After Hours with Nia. This is the 19th episode, and we're here with Kris Averi, who is a jewelry designer. Or what's like the proper term for what you do? Would you say jewelry designer?
Yeah, jewelry designer, business owner, artist, whatever.
Yeah. And this is so random, but I was wondering if you're into like dwarves, like mythical dwarves, just because I imagine them like in their caves working on their metals and stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
Really?
I think they're really cool. I mean, I love Lord of the Rings. It's like one of my favorites. And then in some mythology, I don't know if you know this, but Freya, the dwarves made her this beautiful necklace, and they had to tempt her to get it back. It was lost or whatever. So dwarves and jewelry, I think they just go hand in hand. So yes, lots of that happening, or like Santa's elves tinkering away.
Oh,
You
I
know.
love that. I love that. Would you say that they're like your favorite mythical creatures or no?
No. Oh my gosh. I can't pick a favorite mythical creature. That would be really hard. I think if you asked me when I was 12, I'd be like, "Oh, unicorns," which they
Yeah.
have a place in my heart.
That's fair. So you are based out of New York City, right?
Technically, yes, I am out of both New York and New Jersey a lot, but most of the production actually happens in New York City, all in the Diamond District and everything like that. So I'm also based where I need to be. I can kind of go different places, but ultimately, New York and New Jersey is where I am physically located, right?
And so how did you get into this? Like it's a very specific calling. Like did your family members do this before you or
No. It is very specific, right? Like, how did that yeah, so gosh, when I was a kid, I was always into art. I was always, doodling in my notebooks, not really paying attention. I did, painting, clay. I did all kinds of things as a kid. I always had this affinity for art. And then my mom actually, I was like 15, and she's like, "Hey, there's these pre-college classes for jewelry making." And I was like, jewelry making. I was like, well, not beading. I'm not going to bead. I don't have time. I don't have patience for that. Listen to me here, hearing that now. And I think I have respect for beading, but Little Crest was like not about it. And I just started taking some jewelry classes on the weekend. I fell in love. I lost myself in my passion. I could literally sit at the bench for hours and just be so immersed in what I was doing. It didn't matter what the world was doing, what my personal life was doing, what anyone was doing. I was just there with the craft, creating and working with fire and different metals and learning how they work and different technicalities to what you can and can't do with metals, and then gemstones and kind of having different layers. It was just art became an idea of something that is wearable beyond just the art that you just kind of see in our world day to day. It kind of becomes a part of you. So, the more and the deeper down the rabbit hole of anything that you go when you get passionate about it, it kind of just became so intrinsic. And I'm like, this is it. I know I need to do this for the rest of my life. Has to be this. I was like, I'll figure it out. So that kind of set the course for my really focused intention on jewelry and how to do it. And I even at that point, even taking that class, I knew like I want to do this for myself full time. I want to be a business owner. I don't even know how to do that, but I want to do this for me, and I just want to figure out how to do that. And then here I am figuring out how to do that
yeah.
still.
So it
Yeah.
sounds to me like it was kind of a spiritual calling. Like would you agree?
Yeah, I totally do. It's funny you say that, Nia, because I say it like, and I share about it with people. Like, this is my vocation. This is something deeper. This is a calling. This is like, I wake up, and even on my tough, challenging days, it still summons me back. It still pulls me. There's some deeper point to it, I think. And it's evolved over time from what that even means, right? I think when we get in our passion, it becomes something, and then it kind of just moves and transforms and leads us with it. So, I definitely feel like this is a bit of a co-creation with the divine and myself, just like doing the things. I mean, even just being an artist and what that means, like you kind of have to allow yourself, like your ego has to kind of step out of the way. This is what I believe, and kind of allow that kind of other part of your brain, and just who you are kind of takes a back seat, and just kind of the creativity takes the front seat, and what that moves through you. So I kind of feel like that's how I do a lot of things, even entrepreneurship and being a business owner, but that's even transformed. But even just as far as being an artist, a designer, jewelry person, it's just a constant ebb and flow, and it's a relaxing into something and allowing that to come
Mhm.
through. Because when I'm in my head, I'm like, oh my God, this client wants this design. Oh my God, are they gonna like it? When I really get, we can kind of I can kind of shut my voice down or shut the process and the flow so easily. So it's kind of like allowing oneself to step into that and be comfortable with that and being comfortable in the uncomfortable, which
Yeah.
is maybe 95% of the time, right?
It made me
So
think of something I saw that said like being a business owner is the most spiritual thing you can do because you're literally just trusting God. You're like, please God, this is gonna work out.
yes, absolutely. It is a co-creation. It is a constant
Mhm.
life is so unpredictable. How can, I can have, trajectories and goals and aims and, by the end of Q1, and I do, thank
Mhm.
God, right? But it's a constant still an ebb and a flow and life happens, right? So, and there was another coach, a person who said that this was really good. It's like business development as personal development. And that is so true. And what is personal development too? It's wanting to kind of become the best version of yourself, which I kind of always feel like is a spiritual thing, whether you're an atheist or whatever you believe in or not. Like it's still this, we're here on this planet for a reason, I believe, and to kind of hone who we are. And I think it's so beautiful in being an artist or being a creator. And and I say artist, it has such a big breadth of,
Yeah.
you don't have to just necessarily like sit and draw to be an artist, right? It has a lot to it. But how to kind of bridge that gap and have the confidence with it, I think is something that is always a constant. And it's always something where you're kind of in that mode of making your life and being authentically who you are.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful point to it too, which I kind of think is a spiritual thing, right? Like everybody is so different. Everybody's a special snowflake.
Yeah.
Not to insult anybody, but like we are
Yeah.
though.
Yeah,
We
I like
really
what you
are.
said. You were like kind of nervous sometimes, like, oh, are they gonna like my design? Are they gonna like what I made? I actually can relate to that, even though I do more like spiritual work, like psychic stuff. But like, I'll channel something and I'm like, this is the most insane thing they've ever heard. I can't say that. But then I'm like, you have to say it. So I'll say it, and they'll end up actually knowing what I'm talking about. So I get that. It's kind of like that, like your ego, like you said, does get in the way, and it's very hard for you to express yourself. And I think, being a business person, being a human, being a creative, all those things are kind of like the trinity of like us and who we are. And it's like the more we grow, the more our business grows, our art grows. It's like if you take, I'm not well versed in like art history or anything, but like Picasso, his first drawing looked a lot different than, 20 years or whatever later.
Right, right. And I think there's something that's beautiful. What's coming to me as you're saying that is like everybody starts somewhere. You just have to start. Just make the first step. Just, if you're scared, good. Do it. You're not ready? Amazing. I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
I was nowhere near ready. I had a plan. I was gonna be like, I'm gonna start my business when I'm 30. No, it did not. It happened a lot sooner than I even when I look back, I'm like, oh God, I wasn't ready. But there's a beauty. I'm not, you're never going to be ready for anything. And like that's what life is too, right? And I think that what you said beautifully, it's like having the message and you're something is coming out, like, this is crazy. And then being able to take the back seat and just allow that to kind of flow through you. Like I've done tarot and mediumship, and I'm like, what is happening? I'm like, I just, gonna just put it out there and like pray, hope for the best,
Yeah.
And, like, but sometimes like even in that saying or doing the uncomfortable thing and putting yourself out there, or putting, for me, like with the clients, like a design out there, just something a little different, even just I feel like in this day and age too of being an entrepreneur business owner, now we're content creators, putting the content out there, making things, having the ideas. And it's like, what am I, is this right? And it's a constant trial and error too of seeing what works and doesn't work, and just being in who you are and that authenticity. I think no matter what, like that to me is the kind of grounding cord, right? Of how to kind of maybe move. But even then, I mean, like, when you're in the moment, you're like, this is crazy, but here I am. Like, I
Yeah.
surrender.
Totally. I was thinking a lot of the You make a lot of different things, but let's just say primarily I see you make a lot of like engagement rings, wedding rings, and even that is so special. And do you feel like there's a spiritual element of like you're a part of their marriage or like there's a part of your soul like in the ring? Like how do you feel about doing that?
Honestly, Nia, to make someone's engagement ring is not something I take lightly. To me, it's like the highest honor. There's something so gorgeous about it. It takes on a spiritual aspect of, I don't know about me personally, maybe like I am the creator. I'm putting my hands in this part. And a lot of the times, my clients will tell me like really deep things about what they're going through, about how they love this person. And it's so beautiful. And I'm right there with them, you know. And just hearing the love story and having that kind of interwoven into what we're creating, that's my job. And to me, it's just such a high honor where it's this ancient symbolism of what jewelry kind of means. And I think now how love is so broad and we get to really choose, and it's not, you know, arranged marriages or like I own you now. Yeah, I hope not,
Mhm.
but you know, maybe
Yeah.
there's some that can work for some people, you know. We're
Yeah.
judgment free zone. But
Yeah.
when it comes to, and that's also how I fell even more in love with jewelry, is really because of what, especially with wedding and engagement rings, what it becomes and what it became, even as I'm creating it, right? Where it's this endless everlasting symbol of love. It has this eternity element to it. It has a promise. It's kind of this manifestation of like, look, I love you so much that this ring is authentically, I feel you, and I've taken the time to know who you are and know what stone you like or what you don't like, and kind of put that into this special piece where now the object has become a symbol of love. And I mean, I can go on a whole rant about talismans, you know, but and just very briefly, like like one of our, when we were back into cave women, cavemen back in the day, we didn't have time to initially sit and draw in our caves, right? We were on the move. We were hunters and gatherers and trying to just survive. The first form of art was actually jewelry. So when you look at it like that too, like prehistorically, like we've had this in our DNA and in our system. And I'll say it honestly, like jewelry is also super unnecessary. No one needs jewelry. We don't need jewelry to live. What? But when you look at the symbolism and the memories and the meaning, and like I have my grandmother's diamond, and this is so valuable to me, the stories that you've been told from your lineage or family, there's so much that goes into it. It also has this alchemy component, right? Like you're making like lead to gold, nothing to something. I also look at it, especially with wedding rings, a bit like that. Like you know, you're single in the world, you meet your person, you love this human, and they're your beloved, you want to share your life with them. This is a huge thing. And I think wedding and engagement rings, you know, it's like, oh, it's a moneymaker. It's this, especially in my industry. It's like, okay, but
Yeah.
there's so much more to it when you really just sit and think about it, because I feel it's really supposed to honor the couple. And, you know, love to me is not a fleeting thing. It's something that is so valuable. It's a part of who we are and how we express our love and who we express that love to and how we want to share our time with our person. And all of these like deep, big things that I think we spend a lot of time here on earth trying to find outside of ourselves, right? Like, there's just a lot of beauty in that. I know I went on a big rant. I have like
Oh,
lots
you're
of
good.
feelings about engagement rings,
Yeah.
obviously, and wedding rings because I make them all the time and it's my favorite. And you know, and nowadays it's so untraditional with like different gems and diamonds, and you know, it doesn't have to be like, okay, we're getting a solitaire, you know, white gold ring, and here it is, and it's boring. You know, it can
Yeah.
be like, oh, we're gonna use a topaz, we're gonna use a Montana sapphire, we're gonna use spinel, we're gonna use you know, different kinds of stones to represent different things to the person, or like salt and pepper diamonds, right? There's a lot of uniqueness and diversity even to what's being offered, I feel like, in this space, where it gives a lot of people, all kinds of people, different options for who they are and what they want. Yeah, lots of big feelings about wedding engagement rings.
No, that was like so beautifully said, and it just makes me feel like what you do is so much more spiritual than what people might realize because kind of like what you were alluding to, like there are mass produced rings you can just go to like Jared, you know,
Oh,
and get a
absolutely.
ring
It's
and whatever.
available.
But you are like channeling in your own way, like channeling the couple's love and the things that they
Mhm.
like, even kind of channeling all that history or kind of being a part of that history, that ancestral history of making something that is supposed to last forever, you know?
Right, and that's not an easy light thing when you say it like that, right? Like it's got this history, it has this narrative, it has the stories behind it and the memories, and even if it's something totally scratch like from scratch, something absolutely new or we haven't thought about it before and it's a new ring and it's or taking something old and making it new, there's still this concept of alchemy, right? And transformation that's at play. And it's at play. Love is play, right? Like it doesn't have to be this serious thing. And that's also what I want to always incorporate into what I'm creating. And obviously, hand in hand with what you said, making something to last forever, a long time, craftsmanship, quality, really important to me. And a lot of my job too is to kind of share and kind of educate a little bit like, hey, like platinum is the best choice. I think so because it's the strongest. I think of it as like the king of metals. It's versus gold, but gold has its merits. And, so it's a constant looking at what's the best option or the best stone that's going to be with gemstones and diamonds, you're looking at the lowest scale of hardness from 1 to 10, like how do we rate this as being strong, and 10 being a diamond, right?
Mhm.
So there's a lot of things to consider, and that's kind of my job too, to not only make a beautiful ring and a beautiful design, but say like, okay, how in the craftsmanship, like how are we going to craft this for you where it's going to withstand, and something might be a beautiful design, and I've seen a ton of beautiful rings, and but they're really thin, they're gonna break, like,
Mhm.
not that you need something big, bold, and chunky. There's a delicate balance that can be had, but it's always just looking at these things and knowing, how you're gonna wear it, somebody's lifestyle, right? You have to take a lot of things into consideration. I do, at least, especially when it comes to custom, right? Because it's so specific. We can get so specific, which is the beauty of it. So it has a lot of merit. But there's a
Yeah.
lot to look at, right? It can be, but it's fun. I mean, I love it. I live for this.
Good. I can tell that you're really passionate. It's something you care about. I think that's why it's so important to go to small businesses or just
Yeah.
anyone who is an artist to have something done for your house, like a painting or a ring,
Mhm.
or even just a design for your house or something like that, like, or even just really anything where it's somebody who really wants to do it and is doing it because they care versus this
Right.
is my job, this is what I'm doing, I want to charge as much money as I possibly can. But if
Yeah.
I was a customer and let's say I'm going to you for um me, let's just say I want a really cool ring for myself, like walk me through,
Yeah.
like what would we talk about, what's the process?
Sure. So, you would say, like, I want a really cool ring for myself. And I'd be like, okay, amazing. Love this for you, Nia. Like, Nia, tell me about, do you want a stone? What kind of shape stones do you like? Is there colors that you love? Do you just want a diamond? Well, there's other kinds of diamonds. There's black diamonds, salt and pepper diamonds. Now we have all these really beautiful, crazy geometric cuts. Do you want something classic or, you know, kind of more modern or whimsical? Or there's so many realms that we can kind of get into. It depends, right? So a lot of the times, I mean, I love a good Pinterest board. I'll say like, show me examples, show me what you like, even show me what you don't like. Give me it all. Give me even you're walking in the city or on you're going to the park and you see a beautiful something in nature or a piece of architecture, send it to me, show me what you're interested in, show me what inspires you. And then there might be an intention behind your piece, right? You might be like, well, I want this for self love, or I really just want to remember my grandmother, or my mother, or my family, or this is a power piece. I just went through a divorce, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to just claim myself again. I've done some of those; those are amazing. So something that might even when you look at it from a talisman perspective, like what's the maybe intention behind the piece? Is it just to look cute? Love of that too, right? It doesn't have to be this excuse me, big, deep, heavy thing, right?
Mhm.
So it depends on what you want. And then from there, I mean, I have a custom form on my website. I ask everyone to fill out. It has a ton of questions. I ask all the details. I was like, tell me about yourself, tell me about your person or who we're creating this for. What kind of jewelry do you like? I'm seeing you're wearing like a big black kind of, is it black tourmaline? Is it for protection? Is it onyx? It looks like it's for protection. I'm not going to make any assumptions, right? But like, is that maybe we're making a protection ring? There's a lot of
Mhm.
things. So maybe you'll share some of the jewelry that you like and wear. Um, You would then, fill the form out. I would get all the details. I'd come back with questions and asking you, and then we'd arrange for a call, kind of like a Zoom, kind of like a something like this, and then you'll kind of tell me in person on the call what, why or how. We'll kind of dive into some more details, and if I've got any more questions, and then from there I'd kind of walk you through the process. Once you're saying like, okay, Kris, I think I want actually a black spinel ring or a black diamond ring for protection. And maybe I'm going to have some thorns or vines around it. Or, you're
That's
like,
cool.
I
That
also
actually
like,
sounds really cool.
but I like pink, maybe a little feminine in there. Or maybe we have some two like pink sapphires on the side or something kind of unique. Or, maybe we're engraving something like I did a ring recently with someone where I made a sigil with them and we engraved the sigil on the ring and it represented their love together. So, or it can just be a phrase like custom can get really detailed really fast. And that's my
Yeah.
job to give you all the options, so after that, then I would explain the process with you, which is basically, after the call, I ask for a design deposit that's paid to me. It covers my time, it covers my energy if I'm sourcing stones for you. And then from there, I would take all the design inspiration you've given me, the Pinterest board you've given me, maybe, or, just our conversation. I take notes, all the notes I have, and then I would just kind of download that, have that, and then set the intention, start designing, and give you some options. From there, we'll kind of review the options. Let's say for that kind of thorn ring, you'll look at the black spinel, and we would choose a spinel for you. You would maybe find a different shape you like. The stone would be purchased first. That's yours, and then from there, we'll really get into the design. You would choose one. We can kind of fine tune. You're like, I really love number one, but there's something really magical about number three. The way the stone's set, it's kind of like Frankenstein a little bit. Kind of like pulling different elements and parts until we have the perfect piece. Once we have the perfect piece, then I would go ahead and work on a 3D model for you. So with a 3D model, what's really cool is we can get super duper specific. You get to see each angle of the ring, front, side, top view, and you're like, whoa,
That's
you know,
pretty cool.
right? So and it's all in picture, so it's in real time. The ring's huge, it's not going to be this big
Yeah.
in real. On
Yeah.
your screen, you're like, oh, these photos. So from there, you might say, hey, Kris, the prongs look a little funky. Can we move them? Or that looks so bulky. And I'll be like, okay, Nia, always keep in mind, as a jeweler, as a designer, I need the extra bulk of the design because jewelry isn't an additive process typically. It's a subtractive process. So if you think about sculpture, you can reduce something that's casted maybe, but you can't really add on. That might be a little, unless you're welding, right? Well, different topic, different time. But
Yeah.
with I know, right? Multi-passionate. So with jewelry, that's something always to keep in mind when looking at design, especially in 3D modeling, or things can be bulkier, but then they
Well,
get
so, but, like,
polished.
how do you start? Like, do you buy, like a ring kinda already? Are you, like, welding stuff? Like, how do you do that?
So no, I never buy none of the custom work unless it's said and that's what we want is a pre-made setting or mounting. So for example, if you go onto like Brilliant Earth or Blue Nile or any company, which design your own ring. You're like, oh, I'm gonna design my own ring. You are, but you're choosing from pre-selected mountings, which means like, okay, the ring shank itself, I want some pave on the side, bam. And then the crown or the setting of the diamond or whatever stone. Maybe it's a 3 prong, 4 prong, maybe it's a, 6 prong, whatever. You'll kind of choose that. And it's all choosing kind of prefabricated, pre-made mountings and settings. So that's your custom ring. What's custom about it is whatever stone you choose. The settings obviously has to fit that. But other than that, you're choosing from things that have already been selected for you. So with me, with Kris Averi, it is completely from scratch. So for your thorn, your thorn spinel, black spinel ring we're giving you today, it would be there's no pre-made thorn mounting that's going to hold that. Maybe it's like a geometric kite shape ring or something really elongated. I can kind of see it being kind of daggery for you. I love that stuff. So, that's all made in the 3D modeling process. So once we design it, I'll design it and do sketches. So I'll be sending you the sketches. You'll be able to see them. And then from those sketches is when we choose one in the design. And then we go into the 3D modeling, which I was telling you about. So that's when the magic really also does happen is when I'm taking the 2D into the 3D. And 3D modeling is with CAD, which is just computer aided design. It's in a program where I can kind of like use different things and kind of put things together, and have it become solid. Versus, I used to do a lot of wax carving, which is kind of from a block of wax, or you can do prefabrication, from the metal itself. But now with technology, I make it a little jewelry technical heavy right now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep you with me if it makes sense. But with 3D modeling, technology has helped in the jewelry industry tremendously with that ability, because now we're able to get really specific. Stones have to be very, very calibrated. I think in millimeters. So when someone's talking to me in inches, I'm like, my eyes glaze over. I'm thinking this small when it comes to
Mhm.
jewelry. So all that to say is that nothing is pre-made. What happens with it becoming made is when we get into the 3D modeling process, that's where your model is getting made of that ring, of how we're setting the stone, what it's going to look like. And then the beauty of that is from there, then I'm able to do renderings, which is basically applying different elements to that CAD design, the computer aided design. So it looks real. It could look so real, and it's not. It's just a computer. Like even cars nowadays, a lot of that is computer aided design when we see car commercials, right? So
Mhm.
kind of similar things with jewelry. Sometimes it looks so good in the photo. It's not a photo, it's a 3D rendering, right? So it's just so sophisticated these days. So all of that to say is in working with me with Kris Averi, then you can kind of see that what your ring is going to look like. Exactly. We can make the additions, or, change things, move things around. And then once you approve that, you're like, Kris, the 3D model, the ring looks amazing. You'll really be able to see what that looks like on the different views of the ring. Then I move into production and things like that. So production is printing the design out, right? So that comes into a wax, like 3D printing, right? So it comes in a wax or a resin. That's then casted. So casting is a process. So with that, I'll just walk you through, trying to keep it quick, I guess. But so with that, the wax, right? You kind of put it in a kind of almost like one of these that kind of looks like this, a little cylinder, a little metal cylinder. You put it at the bottom, and you pour plaster in there. And then from that, you put that in a kiln, and you let the wax melt out. So the plaster now has the relief of that wax, which is going to be your ring. So it's in the plaster in a sense. And then that piece of plaster is then taken into, nowadays we have like casting machines. You can just pop that into a machine. The gold or whatever metal, platinum, silver, heats up to its melting temperature, and then blasts right into the plaster cast. The plaster obviously like shatters apart when it's taken out and cooled down, and then you're left with the relief, which now has your gold or platinum or whatever metal inside of it. In this case, your ring, your thorn spinel ring, without, just in the raw form. And then from the raw casting, that's taken, that's cleaned, it's polished, everything like that. If any, soldering or additions or laser welding needs to be had to it, it can be. And then your stone is set, and all that's holding a stone, which I think is so amazing to me. Very simple. Is just pressure of the metal that's holding that stone in there. So when you think about it, a lot of that, it makes a lot of sense. It's pretty obvious, but just having the right pressure and knowing the tolerance of the stone, having a stone that's more durable is obviously more helpful to that process. So after the stones are set, everything's beautiful, all polished. Then I take like a million photos, videos, social media content. I would send all of that to you, and you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, Kris, I hope it is amazing." I
Yeah.
love it, which most of the time, 99.99% happens. And if something is like, "Oh, maybe I want to engrave it now," or "Can we just move that?" It's always easier to subtract or kind of thin things out. Or if you're like,
Mhm.
it's high polish right now, but can we do like a satin finish or something a little softer? All of that can kind of be looked at after that point. But yeah, once the ring's done, I take a million photos, and then I ship it to you. And as a jeweler and a jewelry designer, I'm like bonded and insured, so everything is like you have to sign for it.
Yeah.
It's
So
a process,
that's
but
pretty amazing. Like, do you ever have to like I guess weld, or like, I just picture in my mind, okay, I'm just telling you what I'm picturing. Like, do you ever have like a piece of metal and it's like hot and you're like hammering it? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I did a ring, probably it was a year or 2 ago now, where I actually the old school way, like, I got a piece of gold, like, just a, thin stock piece of kind of wire, like, flattened wire. I cut it to the ring size that it needed to be. I had to hammer it on my ring mandrel, ting, 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 ting. I make the 2 seams meet up, and I have my gold solder, and I'm heating the ring up and, having the solder melt and flow, and absolutely, yes, jewelry is that. And now a lot of the times, just with technology, we think of fire and the torch, and which we do use. And it depends also what you're doing with jewelry, right? Like a lot of the times, I feel like in the fine jewelry realm, now we're using like a laser welding technology. So you're putting the piece under a laser welder, and you've got your microscope,
Yeah.
and you have a little piece of wire, and you're putting it on that. Let's say it's a ring, and you're wanting to resize it, and you made it bigger, and you have to close it again. You're putting it on the seam, and then you're just pop, 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 like
So
adding a
do
little
you
extra
feel
wire.
like as
Mhm.
time goes on, is your not necessarily you, but like jewelry designers, do you feel like the craft is getting less and less hands-on and more like these machines doing a lot more?
That's a great question. I mean, I'm sure with technology, like we'll get there, but at the point of now, jewelry is such a craft. There's a value of craftsmanship and kind of just knowing how it works. It would take a very sophisticated, I feel like, machine to do some of the work that we do. But if it's something, let's just say like mass production, like let's go overseas for a moment. And yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, I'm sure that technology might already even exist, right? Like I don't know because I don't do that. But um, when you look at things like that, like as a jeweler and someone's profession, and having the knowledge and expertise for something, I mean, sure, like robots are on the rise and all of that. That could definitely be something. But as of now, I think it would take a lot of power to kind of learn the trade because it's a
Oh, okay, I don't know if you can hear me, but your screen is black. I'll
I
give it a
did.
sec. Oh, there you go.
I don't know what happened.
That
Okay.
happens every time. I don't know, every episode something goes wrong. Or I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that. Knock on wood.
Yes, cancel clear.
But I'm sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was just really saying that I think it would take some time to really have a sophisticated machine or AI being able to
Yeah.
do what a jeweler does. And I think we're all like eventually maybe we're all replaceable in the world of AI, but it would take a lot of just expertise and just even the way you're holding something. Like I had to going to school to learn jewelry um ways to kind of get it really to a point, especially with fine jewelry. There's so many little angles and views and porosity, like where the metal's not perfect and you have to fill it and there's a crack, or that you you just have it's your eye. You have to train your eye to kind of see in a different way. I always tell my one old boss when I see him, sometimes I'll see him in the diamond district. I'm like, Paul, you taught me how to see. Didn't even like fine jewelry for the longest time until
Mhm.
I had an apprenticeship with jewelry, with fine jewelry, and I learned to really appreciate it more because of that, because of just the technicality and just the small level of detail that gold, diamonds, platinum, like these very precious things in our society, and how to use them, right? So I think it's possible, but I don't know. Time will tell to see. But I
Yeah.
don't think a jeweler could ever maybe fully be replaced. I think also because it's like, how could you replace an artist? Maybe you can,
Exactly. Yeah.
but can you really? There's a
Yeah.
heart and a soul behind it. Not to say that machine doesn't have that, but not maybe at the point that we think now or at that level. And it kind of blends that a little bit. But I
Yeah,
think
that's why I try not to worry about the AI too much because like, yeah, I could ask AI like literally anything under the sun and probably get a response, but nothing replaces human contact, you know. And a
yeah.
machine, although it may know more than I know, it doesn't have the same like spontaneity or creativity. Like they're very predictable, whereas humans, I feel like you never really know what they're gonna say or do, which makes it interesting.
We have no algorithm.
But I've noticed a lot of your client base. Would you say clients or customers?
I like saying clients because there's just a level of care I have for each person versus like it's not a quick sale with me. It's
Yeah.
unless someone's just my customer buying on my website, then perhaps the word customer would be more appropriate. But someone's my client, like this is a relationship, and it can be kind of intimate. Like I'm learning so much, and I'm incorporating it into the
Yeah.
special piece of whatever we're making. So I always say clients. Yeah, but whatever, both work. But I always say client.
And you know what, actually, one thing I before I forget, I love the crowns. I saw you made, like, I don't know if you made more than one, I think you did, but the crowns are so cool. Like, those are badass. I really, so you guys definitely check out her website. But I noticed a lot of your clients are part of, like, the LGBT, like, community. Did you just, like, do a pride event and then just everyone came to you?
I wish no. I actually so in I mean I'm a member of the LGBTQIA community and all of that, you know, I take a lot of pride in that, just being able to offer a service that's so specialized and really personal to people with all kinds of love and all kinds of diversity. It's really important, and I think, you know, there's so much heart that goes into it that it was something that I've always wanted to offer. I started I mean, I've always worked with so many people, but back in 2020, during COVID, during BLM, and a lot of like social issues were kind of on the rise at that point, I realized just the importance. I'm like, oh, I have to do something. I'm just a small business owner, and at that point too, I was really kind of in the closet. I was like, oh my goodness, you know, I don't want to scare anyone away. I'm just gonna like just do this, and this is who I am, and I'm just not gonna share so much. And you know, I'm still always mindful with what anyone, and especially what I put out on social or anything. But I um I was working with a client at the time for really special. We were doing wedding bands, and you know their wedding got postponed because of COVID, and I was like, you know, I need to say something. I need to kind of go out on my platform. How can I give back? How can I help? You know, there's just so much distress and trauma happening in the world, and I was like, you know, I'm just going to say, like, I'm a part of the LGBTQ community. Here I am. You know, we'll see how that goes over well on the gram. I was so scared, so scared. I was like, I'm outing who I am. But I was like, no, no, no. I want to be welcoming. I want to be inclusive. And at that time, I don't know if I fully thought like that. I was just more of in my like little fear mode. But I had that happen, and that client who I was working with came out to me and was like, I'm so glad that you're you know you're a member of the LGBTQIA community, because like so am I, and I'm making this for my partner and they're trans. And I was like, oh my goodness, you know, it actually ended up opening a lot of doors when I kind of came out a little bit in my business to be like, hey, here's what I do. I want to be inclusive always, but have a be verbal about it and not be so closeted or so afraid. And then that kind of goes hand in hand with one's own authenticity. Just I don't want to hide who I am, right, or what I'm doing. And I just kind of, once I put that out there, then I just kind of got more people, more diverse couples too, people just looking for different things, kind of maybe not fitting into the norm of society a
Yeah.
little bit. And it kind of, you know, people who love fantasy or love video games or just like really high level different interests coming to me, or just, you know, obviously like gay, lesbian, trans, everybody. It was just like the floodgates opened. People who didn't want, you know, Jared, Zales, Tiffany, all that. It's like, but I want something unique that's going to represent my love. Where can I go? Is there a place for that? And there's a lot of jewelers do custom, but for me, it kind of evolved. I don't want to say I've always been this way. It kind of, even, you know, Kris Avery as a business, I wasn't always Kris Avery. I used to be Etheria Jewel, totally different company, totally different vibe. I wasn't even doing custom. We'll get to there, but with jewelry and just as an entrepreneur, everything has sort of slowly evolved. And now I'm very just happy that I can have that space and keep it open and create a safe space for people looking to I think, make one of the most important life decisions. We are choosing our partner in crime, in love, in business, right? Like just in life. So, you know, I don't take it lightly, like I've shared, but I think you know, having the door open more. And then one of my good friends of mine, she used to work for a very high level jewelry company, very, very well known, very high quality craftsmanship. And she came to me and was like, "Hey, Kris, I want you to make my engagement ring for my wife, soon to be fiance." I was like, "Whoa, you could go to your company and get an amazing discount and have a ring for life, but you're choosing to go with me." At that point, that was also one of my first wedding and engagement rings that I made. It was this
Oh.
beautiful, yeah, I can share it later. Just platinum, very very Lord of the Rings vibe. And at that
Mhm.
time, I had a dear friend, Liza, who's no longer with us. She was an amazing hand engraver, and she hand engraved the top of it in this Celtic design, all just like interwoven. And it was this beautiful princess cut diamond, and the rings, the wedding band, and the engagement ring fit together like a puzzle. It was elaborate, right? Like,
Yeah.
and my friend knew exactly what she wanted, and that also set the stage, where I'm like, she's lesbian, she wants this, I can offer this to her. She's asking me, what a high level, what an honor. So just it kind of evolved over time, and things just happened, I guess. And yeah, but I take a lot of pride and just a lot of love in being able to offer this to everybody. Like, jewelry is for everybody. And
Yeah.
your love, it's unique, and it isn't generic. Your love and your ring doesn't have to be either, right? So there's a level of that, I think, that kind of goes into this always with what I'm doing here.
Yeah, well, definitely thanks for, being open to talking about it. I think it's
Yeah.
important. And it even kind of ties into the beginning of this where we're saying the more authentic you can be, the better your business is, the better your craft is. So I feel
100%.
like that was such a major moment for you to just say something and then make other people feel comfortable. Something that I haven't shared a lot. I'm sure I have here and there and like deleted it. But I identify as bisexual, and I know that I do share a lot of my life. People have seen some boyfriends that I've had, but I have had some girlfriends in between that I just, I kept it to myself because I feel like doing spiritual work is so intimate. And sometimes I do say some pretty personal things. And I would never want it to feel like I'm hitting on them or like flirting with them or just, there always is that fear of judgment, of shame.
Mhm.
And I can't wait for the day where that doesn't even cross anyone's mind. You know what I mean? I feel like one day there will be that, but it's just I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel like, and you can disagree with me if you want. I feel like homophobia isn't as common as it used to be, but
Mhm.
it's still like so deeply ingrained in society that like we could even be homophobic without noticing it. I feel like,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, to a lot of things. I mean, so much to say. Oh my goodness. The first thing, and I've struggled with this myself, is our society just has a way of how things should look. You should get married, you should have kids, man and wife, boy and girl, do this thing, white picket fence, the best job, the fancy car, the fancy house. You've made it, gold star for you. In reality, like, is that really true though? Is that really what you want? So, lots of that to think upon. All to say, too, is that, with homophobia and all of that, unfortunately, and I've had to deal with this myself, is it can be internalized. There is something I learned in therapy called internalized homophobia. And
yeah,
like, oh my God, is this okay? This shame. And it's so sad. And unfortunately, it's very, 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 very prevalent in the gay LGBTQIA community, is just homophobia, internalized
yeah,
homophobia, and shame. And it's so interesting because when you look at pride is the celebration of who you are, who I am. And I'm authentically me. That's one of my favorite things about pride, is just like, that person is being who they are. Bless,
yeah,
love this. Why not? Let's do it. What, you're not hurting anybody. You're being who you are. Unless you are hurting someone, then we have to talk. But when it comes to that, pride and shame, that's kind of the opposite. And when you look at homophobia, and it's just even like a tool to make you feel ashamed about who you are,
yeah,
right? And all of that. And it's easy to kind of also get in your head. And I used to be there. I'm like, I gotta hide who I am. I don't want anyone to know who I'm dating right now. I'm just, they're gonna judge me. I can't come out. I need to just, it's such a keeping yourself in such a cage, I think, at times, right? And it's so sad that in society we might feel the need to do that. I also think, I'd love to say and think that homophobia is on the down, and in my heart and spirit I believe this. And at the same time, just what's on the media, what we're being seen or fed, is it true, is it lies? It also depends what state you live in. Like,
That's true.
Would I
Yeah.
feel comfortable holding my partner's hand in the state right now in the airport? There's a lot of extra things that, unfortunately, I feel like I even need to just think about if I'm out in public with certain people, or, and it shouldn't be that way. And I don't want it to be that way. And when it comes to, although who I am and with the ones I love and in my life, I just want to be who I am, and I do. And I hope and they love and accept me for who I am. And I've surrounded and built my community and my support network with that, right? But it can be intimidating. Absolutely. Gosh, when I even came out of college, I was like, I don't want anyone. I gotta just keep this. No one can know anything, right? So it's a bit of a delicate balance, and ultimately it comes down to your own comfort level. With work, I'm very grateful and fortunate. I've just been like, hey, here I am. Work
Mhm.
with me, I'm here,
Yeah.
So it just depends on you too and your own comfort. And also the thing with that too is no one, and you don't ever have to be pressured to kind of come out or live this big out loudness. Like no one's forcing you to do that. And if they are, that's a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah, that's pretty
So
weird.
yeah, it comes down to what you, I think, want for your life. And I think just all I hope and pray for so many people who are gay or lesbian or LGBTQIA or identify in some form or fashion is to not cage or closet who they are out of shame and repression and fear or trauma or judgment of others. And then it's always in my belief that if someone really loves you, they will love you for all of you, no exceptions. No, if you do this, if you change for me, no,
Mhm.
just who you are. And I think that's one of the maybe purest forms of love is like just acceptance and not attachment. No
Like
attachment.
unconditional.
Yes, unconditional and no attachment to who you should be for me, right?
I
Or what
think,
I want
I
you to
think
be.
sorry, I think a lot of the shame that like we internalize, I think a lot of it comes from like religion. I do. Like it definitely could just be like a homophobic uncle or whatever. But religion is so deeply ingrained in society, whether we want to admit it or not. Or like even me, I went to Catholic school for several years. And yeah, so I'd be like I would have like a little girlfriend and then I'd be like, I'm sorry, but I can't go to hell for you. Like we gotta break up. Like,
Sorry.
literally, I was so scared. Every night I would pray to God. I'd be like, "God, please do not let me burn for all eternity." Like, and it
Uh,
was such a deep fear that it caused so many like blocks in relationships that I had with people. And even to be honest, even though I'm like straight, sort of, you know what I mean? Like, I even still feel some like sexual shame, even with straight
mhm,
partners, just because all growing up, it was like, if you have sex, you're going to hell. Like, you have to be married, and it's so deeply
mhm,
ingrained. It's a hard thing to process, and since I'm a healer, obviously the more I heal myself, the more I can help others. So
mhm.
I just this whole year I want to break through that barrier and just be like, yeah, we like, I like girls, I like guys, I like probably some people in between, who knows, but like, and if you don't like me, you don't like me. If you think I'm hitting on you, get a life. you know
Yeah, and it's as simple as that. And I hear you on the religious part. I think that can be definitely so prevalent. You are not alone. It is a shared Catholic guilt thing or
Yeah.
whatever guilt. It doesn't necessarily just need to be Catholic. I went to Catholic high school too. I definitely was.
It was hard, it was scary.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely can, put the fear of God in you, which it's supposed to do it to some extent without putting anything or anybody down here. I think religion has a time and place and can be so beautiful for people. But when it comes to, and that's just another point of shame, it's another point of controlling, right? I feel like just a method of control.
Yeah.
So, but you're aware of it. You see it in your day to day, you call it out, and you also have this deep need of like, but wait, my love is so big. Why does it have to be limited to just a man and a woman and all in between? Like, what does this look like for me?
Well, it's even
you
like
know,
when you think about it, like even if you're saying like fear of God, like that to me is so weird. Like you say God is unconditional love, loves everybody no matter what, no matter if you're a killer, you're a sinner, whatever, like he loves you, but not if you like the same sex as, as you. It's
yeah.
like, what are you like when you actually think about it, it logically doesn't make sense. And I do believe in
Mhm.
God, obviously, and I
Mhm.
do believe that that love is unconditional, so I don't think God cares if you're a little zesty, you know?
No, I mean, I agree with you. I believe that God, spirit, whatever you call the great divine
Mhm.
universe that is all love, all unconditional love. And even in, Catholicism Bible, it's like, love your neighbor. What is love your neighbor? They might be different than you, but like love your neighbor, accept them for who they are. And all of that, even if, they've sinned or all these, terrible crimes, it's just it's we're being human in this human life, and there's all these things around us, and also like what is in another, a million ways to God or 100 ways to God. There's so many different paths
Mhm.
to what that even looks like why can't it be gay? Why can't it look like this? Who says a man, a human, or like mankind? How do we truly know? Where's
Mhm.
our evidence? Do we
That
have
is the thing is like too with being out, which I don't think anybody should come out if they're not ready, but it's like the
it?
more people who are authentically themselves, it just I think will open up so many
Mhm.
doors. So I think probably there's so many people that like what I'm talking about, they feel the same way and they could even be married to the opposite sex or have kids with the opposite sex and they're so deep and stuck or feel stuck. They're not actually stuck. But you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it could really open so many doors or even like religious leaders if they came out of the closet because I know there's a bunch of and I'm not judging or anything like that, but, like, a lot of people
Yeah.
would look down and be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe she said that." But I'm sure there's a lot of religious leaders who are, like, homosexual or bi or whatever, and I think if all those people came out, it would just there would be a revolution. But, like, I'm also I understand that we've all been programmed through school, we've all been, like, dumbed down over the years of society, and it's just ideally, maybe we do strive for the man and the woman and the picket fence, and but even the people who do that, I mean, the divorce rates are through the roof. So, I mean,
Right. Are
you're
they
damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
well, I feel like a lot of maybe a lot of people also don't really know what they want, and they might just be going through life rather unconscious and just unaware and just fed lies, just untruths, and really just stumbling forward because my mom wants this, my dad wants that, society wants this. We're always told the dream of society of what that needs to be versus what is, and maybe what are our own dreams, right? So just even looking at it like that, I just think people maybe they even haven't even had the opportunity to think those big level things. Also, because there's so many distractions in the world too of all of that on top of everything. So I think it can get really complex really quickly. But with that too, going back to what you were saying and just being authentically yourself, I think you just even need the space to what is that? What does being authentically myself mean? And asking that question is so big. And starting small, maybe it is sexuality. Maybe it is, I am this way or I'm attracted to this person, but just on such a fundamental level of likes and dislikes are still just human to us, and like just kind of what we have in our personality, if you will, but kind of that deeper like who am I question. And being your authentic person in this life, I think it's just such a deep thing to kind of contemplate that I don't know if enough people have. And I think it's for me, it's just a constant evolution. Like I would hope every year is different than the last, and where nature constantly changes. I think life is supposed to change. We are supposed
Mhm.
to evolve and change. If we are the same, God, that would be boring, wouldn't that? So there's a lot of that too with authenticity, and maybe the concept of being uncomfortable in change and influx. And this is the year of the snake, right? So what does a snake do? It sheds its skin.
Yeah.
It releases this part of itself, or this like maybe this way it looked or way it looks, right? So I think to strip that down and strip down who we are to the foundation and the fundamentals can be really empowering for a lot of people, and I think it's the time to do that. I think just being sexuality, or as an artist or as a business person, all these different identities that we might have, sometimes it's good to look like, who gave that to me? Why am I calling myself that? Do I need to have that? Do I need to look like this? Do I need a septum ring in my nose right now? What am I trying to prove? What am I trying to say? It could be just so minor, but I think different steps that we can take can kind of help to uncage us or really release who we are, our full potential, and the power that everyone inherently possesses inside of themselves. So to
Yeah.
step into that bigger truth or greater empowerment on so many levels. And it might sound scary or making different steps, but it can be small, and one step at a time. And I always say, start before you're ready. All
Yeah.
at one's own pace.
No, but I think you brought up a good point. I think not enough people ask like who am I? But at the same time I believe that everything is the way that it is for a reason. So like they'll get there eventually. But I also want to say if you are somebody who does self-reflect, like who you are could even change day to day. You know, we're constantly taking in new information or just having new experiences. Like I feel like my core personality has never changed, but definitely different aspects of it have. Like if I talk to myself even last year, I'd probably be like, "Girl, get your shit together. Like, what are you doing?" So it's a constant evolution, and it's so funny because we're talking about how your business kind of is you. It's like a facet of who you are, and like with me, I've been very like I don't know what to even call it, like a public personality, I guess, if you will. And like I'm constantly changing. And then I'm also looking at some of my posts and I'm like, was that even authentic at the time? Like my intention has always been authentic to help people, but I feel like sometimes the way I would speak, like for instance, in the spiritual community, a lot of people say like grand rising, right? Grand rising is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, honestly, who's saying that? Like, which I understand they say it because, good morning could be like good morning, like sad, and grand
Mhm.
rising is the sun, but it's just like, it's just funny, like, when you do take a moment to self-reflect or just be aware, it's a little cringy, but it's always okay to be the cringe, whether it's authentic or inauthentic, like, be cringy and you will figure it
Yeah.
out. Like, the more cringy you are, the freer you are, and probably the better you will succeed at the things that you do.
Yeah, everyone needs a Britney moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just shave the hair; it grows back. Just maybe not. If you don't, no need to. You have beautiful hair. I have beautiful hair when I keep it as it is, right? But maybe shaving the hair, or just releasing something, or like this identity with what we've got, or
Mhm.
something around that, right? So I think just looking at that and self-reflecting, like, I mean, I've looked at some old posts that I've even posted on my, just with the business or personal, like, oh man, where was I? But just, you were where you were needing to be at that point. You were doing the best you had the best that you could with what you had at your disposal at that time, with what you knew. So I feel like a tremendous amount of grace should be had, especially with ourselves. Gosh, this is something I'm always working on, but like giving oneself the grace to mess up, make the mistakes. Like, success does not happen in a vacuum. And just even the success of being who you are as a person in this life, and not only just a business owner, like we were talking, personal development is business development is personal development. Just looking at this kind of holistically. And like, if you were talking, like if I was talking to you and you were telling me like, oh god, I was so cringe, I was like, hey bestie, hey, give yourself some grace, friend.
Yeah.
It's okay to not have it all figured out. It's okay, you were doing the best that you could at the time. Like, and I try to give, like, even when I try to structure my day, or a lot of, I feel like you probably understand, just pivoting constantly to be like, okay, this was planned, now it's got to look like this, now we have to shift it like that, right? So there's a tremendous amount of that, and there has to be some grace with that, or you'll be in this endless shame cycle of beating yourself up over something. And does that really serve you? Like, no, because then
Yeah,
you're in your head negatively talking to yourself.
Yeah, it's funny because I kind of recently had an epiphany about like beating yourself up because I would like do something and then I would spend a whole day be like, "Oh, why did I do that?" And then I'd be so upset I would just do it again. You know what I mean? Like for instance, like I've been trying to like eat a little healthier, and then if
Yeah.
I have like one like bad thing, then I'm like, "Damn, I already messed it up. I'm just going to eat a whole bunch more bread." You know what I mean?
Oh,
So it's like
yeah.
learning to like, okay, if I beat myself up, I'm just going to repeat the shame or repeat the negative cycle. So I realized that if I just
Yeah.
say, "Oh well, I did that," and kind of like move forward with my day, it's a lot easier.
Absolutely. I feel like I'm learning, and I'm trying to be better about my time on my phone and being more constructive with my time. And I'm like, oh my God, I was just on here for like 30 minutes right now, 20 minutes. I could have been doing so much more with my time. And it's so easy to go, like, I'm here now and I've already wasted it. Or like,
Yeah.
the thing's already been had. Like, we've already messed up. But definitely, like, and how that even just having a check-in, how does that feel in the body? How are you feeling? Even just talking about that to yourself. We're eating more, more bread, or more like, oh, I feel so lethargic right now. I've
Mhm.
been there. Or like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, now I've wasted an hour. I've just wasted 30 minutes and now I've been here the whole time. And now I'm not gonna be able to read the book I wanted to start reading tonight. Or something like that. It's just, I just think it's a reevaluation and a kind of in the moment check-in, might be like, okay, wait, I'm gonna put the bread away. I'm gonna put the phone away. I'm gonna put the key. I'm gonna put like what this is, maybe in terms of distraction or habit, right? But
Mhm.
putting it away and just being mindful in the moment can try and be helpful for sure. And
Yeah.
it works, and it's works and it doesn't. It depends where you're at and what your needs are too. But only we know best. Only you know best what's best for you. Only I know what's really best for me. But to be able to have that dialogue and that self-awareness and that check-in, like, power to you, friend.
Mhm.
Power to
Yeah.
you.
And you know what? Anybody who's like watching this, like personally, at least for me, meditation is everything. But meditation also, I hate when people are like, oh, I can't sit still that long.
Oh my
Meditation
gosh.
can be like going for a walk. Meditation can be drawing. It's just about being
Mhm.
present and kind of like what you were saying. You could check in with the body, check in
Yep,
with the mind, check in with your whole energy, and then making adjustments accordingly. You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
that's kind of, and then if you can keep that throughout the day, you're gonna be doing pretty
Powerful.
good. Yeah.
I do a meditation kind of yoga practice in the morning. At least once a day is what I try to do. Called Shambhavi, and it's kind of a yoga technique, and it has helped me be the center of the storm. I'm still always learning to be the center of the
Yeah,
storm, but
yeah.
it
It's
helps.
a process, it's a journey.
Absolutely, it's a journey. So is life, right? So, but
Mhm.
but I think having a meditation practice is really crucial because it's helped me to just not be so in my head about things or get so stuck in myself or the day or something, and kind of just be have more mental and emotional and like physical clarity. It's been life changing to have a practice like that. I mean, and I do different things. Like, I even do mantras sometimes on different days, and just having some kind of practice to be grounded. It could even just be going outside or like being in nature and like connecting with the trees, or
Mhm.
just being in the body somehow, or just having something, or even being in the shower and just like, okay, I'm gonna let the day go. I am going to release this and just be here with myself. There's so many different points of practice I think that people can have, that are little additions, little changes that they can do that would really help without being too preachy or anything. But like,
Yeah.
just from personal experience, it's been really life changing to have something, and I'm still always constantly pivoting and shifting, like, and adjusting what that might look like for me to have more stability. But it brings that. I feel like it brings stability to life, because life is so and can be so all over, and so many different things are hitting us constantly, information, and we change day to day. I love that. You're like, I might be a different person tomorrow. Exactly.
Yeah.
I love you
Maybe
too.
even, like, in 2 hours from now.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
But, yeah, and it's one thing too, and this might be a little random. It's kind of, I don't know, it came to my mind, but, so I teach Reiki, which is just a system of, like, self-healing and meditation, and, my practice that helps me a lot are the Reiki precepts. You kinda use
Oh,
them to
cool.
reflect. So you reflect on, like, anger, anxiety, compassion, a bunch of things, and then there's all these different ways of, like, healing yourself, and you're supposed to do, like, a little bit at least meditate daily and these other things, and so when I teach it, like I teach, the traditional format, but I always tell people, like, you don't really need me to tell you how to do this. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You can come up with your own thing, because it does hurt me. That might be a funny way to say it, but it hurts me when people are like, "Please tell me how to do this. Tell me how." And it's like, I'll give you some tools, but like it's up to you. Like, and I feel like it can be disempowering to people who come to me that like want me to tell them, how to do everything. It's almost like if I go to church and whatever the priest tells me, I'm like, "Okay, that's the truth and nothing but the truth." You know what I mean? Like, I
Mm.
think it's important for people to like learn things, but then make it your own. You get what I'm trying to say?
100%. Yeah. What it's I don't believe it's a one system fits all kind of
Yeah.
thing. Like, even to what you call yourself in your own practice of how you practice spiritually or not, or not too. It could just be simple as a daily walk, right? Or something. There's
Yeah.
something different for everybody, and I think like it's just like not all religion is one size fits all, right? Like,
Mhm.
there's so many different practices and points. I think that it doesn't have to just be what somebody's telling you. Absolutely. Although I think we sometimes might feel like, oh, okay, this is the one way I have to do this meditation. It has to look like this every day. And that's the only way versus like,
And sometimes people actually thrive that way. I think sometimes people do need like the like kind of
yeah,
OCD kind of like particular thing.
absolutely. Like, and that could work. Absolutely. I mean, and there's some practices, right, where you do have to maybe do it that
Mhm.
way. But okay, I'm going to do it this way, maybe in the morning, maybe at night, maybe in the midday, or, how can it support your lifestyle in a way that works and makes sense for you, where, it can incorporate your own values and what you want to have in your life and create for yourself. So I think exactly what you're saying is like, and you're asking people to be creative too, and like make it your own, make it fun,
Mhm.
make it work for you, or and I think that's the beauty of what it can offer, and we're kind of looking at different things in that regard. But I love that so much. You're encouraging people like, hey, this is my way, but look, like, it's a DIY system over here.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I was just thinking how funny it is that we were talking about rings and now we're like all the way over here
I
talking
love
about
it.
something. But anyway, so this is like random, but what do you think is the hardest part of being a jewelry designer? Like, is it getting the customers? Is it like marketing? Is it the work itself? Like, what do you think is
Mhm.
the hardest part?
I think there's a few questions and a few answers in there. Being a jewelry designer is, I mean, I think you could say for me personally, it kind of challenges my vision on like, ooh, what do I want to create just to have in the world. With custom, I kind of find it really easy and fun to just kind of collaborate with somebody else and what their vision is. But with me, it's like, okay, well, what's Chris's vision? Or like, let's get specific here. So sometimes that can be a bit challenging, or like trying to summon in creativity for myself for that thing can be a little like a bit of a pushback. But um that could be maybe the challenging part as a jewelry designer. But when it comes to a business owner, that question has a lot. I think
Yeah.
for me personally, that's where things get more challenging. I just, the list kind of like, I have to be a content creator. Ooh, there's a lot. Maybe that's it too. It's all the hats that I have to wear as a business
Yeah.
owner, which I also love. Like, I love that every day is different. I love that I'm doing something in my interactions and I'm always learning and it's keeping me on my feet. And there's just energy that's kind of charged into it that I really enjoy. Um, but being a business owner, I think it's having for me, it's like having the focus can be so strongly in one thing, but my focus also needs to be at like all these other
Yeah.
points. So it's wearing all of these hats at different times that I think can kind of get a little to become a lot, and it can kind of get overwhelming to kind of manage the time like that. Time management, huge one for me. Oh my gosh, as a business person, entrepreneur, woman-owned business, all of that. Marketing, always. Oh my, oh my, oh my. I'm constantly learning. I'm still learning, still going through all of that. There's
But
so
one thing
much.
that's hard though with social media is you can have the perfect marketing plan, and this month it'll work, and next month the algorithm's different, and it's like, good luck.
No, exactly, exactly. And it's just putting yourself out there. It's even just as simple. I feel like kind of goes back to the root of that, and it can be hard when you're like, but I didn't get a lot of engagement. It's like, well, just keep on keeping on,
Yeah, keep doing
So,
it.
and there are ways, and I mean, I'm even using AI to like, hey, help me write this out to kind of work on this, to using different tools, different techniques to kind of help.
Mhm.
That's been sort of definitely invaluable as a business owner. There are so many challenges. I did not come into this knowing anything about business. Nothing. I was just an artist designer. I came out of school, worked for some other people for a bit, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do my own thing now. And let me tell you, that was really rough, but I got the right connections through time, through just meeting people. People are like, "Hey, I can help you with this. Let me show you that." Different ways of photographing jewelry, photoshopping jewelry. I just kind of picked up these different skills along the way from
Yeah,
different people that
partnerships are very important.
absolutely, like, success isn't made in a vacuum. You can't just I couldn't just live and create jewelry in a little hobbit hole space tinkering away and
Although that would be way cool.
it would be way cool, right? But you need like a marketing team and you would have to be, you would need all of these things. So how would you get that craft out of that hobbit hole
Yeah.
into the world?
Mhm.
Out of that cave where, like just like a dragon on your horn, like be in your own element. Like you have to kind of get out of your comfort zone all the time. And that might be it too. I'm like challenge one, two, not to intimidate. I'm like, if anyone wants to be a business owner and start, do it now, start before you're ready. I've failed a ton of times. I've failed, and that's the other thing that we don't talk about enough. I think there's so much praise for success, which is beautiful. And I love success as best as the next person. But do you know how many times I failed before just even having this conversation right now with you? The first collection I made I didn't sell anything. It was awful.
Yeah.
It was so disheartening, and it made me want to quit. Like, and it's the push through, it's the tenacity, it's the kind of get up and go and like, okay, I'm gonna just do it. I failed, I messed up, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Like, I'm gonna figure this out. And that to me takes a lot of drive. And there are days that is really rough, even for me, or like, maybe I should quit. But it's just for me, it's like there's no plan B. Like this is the plan. And there's something to be said about the tenacity of it. Like, I mean, I know you asked me about the hardest part in being a jewelry designer, and we
Mhm.
just talked about being a business owner, but there is merit. There are good things,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
obviously, like,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, it's so
rewarding. It's
desired.
rewarding, but it's hard. I mean, everything is hard no matter what you choose. It's
Right.
just kind of choosing like I guess the level of difficulty or the style of the difficulty. Cuz I mean, it can be
Yeah.
hard just to go to some job where you just sit at a desk and then you leave and you go home, you know what I mean? And for some
Mhm.
people that's great. For some people it's not. But I
Right.
agree like if you want to start a business, just freaking start it and you probably will fail a lot. But
It's
you'll
okay.
learn so much, because I've seen people who start and they have everything they could possibly need. They've studied all the books they could possibly study and they still fail. Or even if they accomplish everything right away, it's not as
Yeah.
rewarding as if you had fallen on your face 10 times first.
Right, right, right. And I mean, we don't know what goes behind closed doors with somebody's success or somebody's failures and what they're sharing and what they're not sharing, right? So, it's like success is always like I think in society, like everybody wants to be a business owner. It's this super rewarding, but we don't talk about how hard it is to be a girl boss and what you have to manage and what your responsibilities are and how this is not a 9 to 5. This is an all the time. And it takes your time and attention kind of all the time and how to balance that in your everyday life. And the 9 to 5, going to the office, checking in, checking out, there is reward to that because that
You could
offers a
check
different
out.
you can check out, but it offers a different level of stability too, right? Like no one's paying me a paycheck. Like so which would be really nice. Love that sometimes,
Yeah.
right? So there's different levels of that, I think, when it comes to what somebody's trying to accomplish. And I always believe starting before you're ready. But and if it does get hard or maybe you change your mind, like that's okay too. You're not a failure at life just because you change your mind on what you want. Or if you do want to start the business to get it going and you're not making any sales or you're not getting any clients, it's like, okay, but have some grace. Rome wasn't built in a day, it took a lot to build Rome. It will take a lot to build
Yeah.
your personal Roman Empire. Like, that is how it is with a business. And that is something I have to remind myself all the time because just like the next person, I'm like, I want $1 million business tomorrow. It's just
Yeah.
cool. So do you. So does
And
everybody.
like my biggest thing too is like do not be embarrassed. I feel like
Mm,
most people are just embarrassed to just do the thing they want to do because their mom's watching or their friends are watching. Do
yeah.
not be embarrassed. But I also feel like
I like that.
this is kind of specific, but I've seen people try to start online businesses on their personal Instagram, which I never think is a good idea because
Mhm.
it's all like your cousins and your people from high school that don't even like you. They're not going to support you.
Like
Like,
that.
I have gotten the most support from people I have never met and will probably never meet than like
Yeah.
somebody I grew up with.
Right, right. And I
So,
think there's something to be said about just community and creating your own community. And excuse me, also something that this is making me think of is there's reward in not sharing your every move with everybody. There is a reward into just saying like, I'm going to put my head down and do this and focus on this task. I'm building my business. I'm not sharing with mom, brother, sister, father, grandmother, best friend, cousin, uncle. No. When you're able to, well, I've noticed like the more that I share, sometimes it kind of loses its magic or its energy, right? When because
yeah.
I'm putting it out there, and not to be kind of mean here, but not everybody does want you to be successful, right?
Yeah.
So with that said, and that in mind, not to say the world is a scary place, but just keeping your goals and keeping your circle tight, keeping your goals kind of to yourself and what you're creating, it creates more power and internal power for yourself. Not to say you can't ask for help in what you're trying to accomplish, but you don't always need to share like I'm starting my business tomorrow and it's gonna
Yeah.
launch and look, do promote yourself, promote your business, all of that, but keep your what you're creating close to the cuff, close to the heart. You don't need to share your next business move or life with everybody. I think in our just society and with social media, we're so used to sharing our whole life here. And there's some beauty in keeping our intimate details to ourselves that's really just for us.
There's
Uh,
also there's a saying that's like, don't announce, just arrive.
yeah, I love that. That's powerful.
Yeah.
How are you arriving? Like I think of this like beautiful car and this gala event or like whatever, but like how'd you get there? Like boom, there you are, but you're making moves kind of undercover a bit. And I think you're not yeah, you're not announcing it to the world, then you are
Yeah.
just arriving. I love that.
Yeah,
Good.
when you and I feel like too, like if you expose your cards like too much, that it is like I don't know, it's almost like losing respect from other people. Cause think about
Mhm.
all right, this is what comes to mind. Like think about like the Kardashians, right? We have seen their entire freaking life forever. And nobody treats them with respect. Nobody's like, oh, Miss Kardashian, please. Like they're like, oh, that hoe with the tape. You know what I mean? you know, because there's not a lot of respect. Now, I share a lot, definitely, because that's just who I am. But there's
Yeah.
still a lot that, I don't share for reasons.
Right, right. And also with any kind of reality TV, still a lot of it is scripted. I'll
Yeah.
just say
Yeah.
that. So like who really knows? If all that it's probably not true. We love
Mhm.
drama, watching on TV and people get invested in other people's drama. What makes good TV? They were able to kind of sign up for that with their life. That's their choice, right? But, is life always really that dramatic? Maybe for some of us, but it's not always something that has to be shared, and then it's kind of creating that drama for it's like an energy leak kind of
Yeah.
thing. I feel, yeah, I learned that term recently and I'm like, oh, I love it, energy leak.
Well, Chris, this has been such a fun episode, and I'm so grateful that you were able to join us. You were my first jewelry designer podcast partner.
Thank you.
But thank you so, so much, and maybe we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely. This was such an honor. Thank you. This was such a blast. I would be honored. And I just thank you for having me. Thank you for asking me. This has been such a pleasure. And the time has flown. So
Yeah. And
thank
and
you.
by the way, guys, I will have all her information in the description box. Like I'll put like your website, your social
Yeah.
media. So definitely check her out. She's a cool person. She's got really cool jewelry and she could make something custom for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Nia.
All right, love you.
Love
Bye.
you. Bye.